Good afternoon, and I have to kind of hop back off of campus just for a minute because I'm a sociologist who studies race, and so I can't not talk about racial equity for a moment. To step back and before I dive in there, given the tensions that have been the last last few months, especially the past week, for the nation, for the campus, it's really delightful to be celebrating something good. So, thank you. I want to celebrate the team and the launch of the Center for Employment Equity. It's an amazing leadership team, and so much great work has already come out of it. And I'm really excited to see some more of what the new projects are underway. But as I said, I'm a sociologist who studies race and racial equity and the changes in work itself. So, aside from how we look at discrimination squarely and the law, thinking about how work has changed and what the decline in secure work has meant changes all of this, right? It's this layer underneath. And until really relatively recently, secure work that paid a decent wage, that allowed workers to support themselves and their families, was something that wasn't equitable, right? It was something that white men had access to, and they took it for granted. Skilled, unskilled, it was very limited in its access. And just as minorities and women were beginning to gain access to desirable jobs, secure work in the 70s, as Don documents in Documenting Desegregation, the rules of the game changed. And secure work changed. So what does it mean in this moment of rising employment insecurity to talk about equity and to document changes in equity when what you're measuring itself changes? Right? The rise in part-time work and so many other dimensions of that. And so that deal that we had that goes to the labor contract has really shifted. And so when you're measuring and you're tracking that change, people, workers who are kind of at the core of this, that are driving kind of the policy dimensions, the activism, the partnerships with employers are really at that core, and our answers are not simple. And they are racially disparate, right? And so what it means to make progress, working hard, getting a good education isn't enough anymore. That insecurity is shifting, work itself is leaving. And so it makes the work to measure equity even more important. Because as you just pointed out, if you don't measure it, you can't know, right? So we know anecdotally, right? We see the evidence in the destructions of communities that result. So I really celebrate the work to pursue the study of employment equity and the emphasis on gender and race and LGBT and the other issues that we know that are so central really clearly. So that's my sociologist of race pitch, that it's really core. But as the Associate Chancellor for Equity and Inclusion for the campus, thinking about what it means to pursue equity organizationally is really important. And some of the work that we've done over the last 5 years, or really I put it as 4, the campus launched a diversity strategic plan back in 2015 that kind of charted out what are the steps we need to do as a campus to be better, to recognize the goals and the responsibilities we have as an organization and the second largest employer in Western Massachusetts to be better, right? To make sure that we are equitable and to create pathways into the university that are accessible not just at the faculty level, and there's lots that we've done there, but at other levels of the organization. So that's really key. But I want to talk about one initiative that we're working on right now, and that's the Advance Grant that Don mentioned. And so the Advance Grant is funded by the National Science Foundation, and its aims to develop systemic and sustainable approaches to addressing faculty gender equity. And our project in particular focuses on equity and collaboration as a lever for change. And if you think about it, as we were talking about before, what are the levers, right? And why are they so important to document? If you think about the faculty, and not just our faculty, but faculty nationwide, issues of equity in faculty are kind of one of those intractable areas of change. That access is one thing, retention is another, and then promotion and thriving within the institution is yet another. And so our project really aims to think about what does it mean to kind of foster equity? What does it mean to foster research collaboration and ensure that people have the resources, relationships, and recognition they need to thrive in the academy? And what does it mean for us institutionally to build equity into our faculty advancement culture, right? Because we talk about a lot of other things in terms of advancement. Equity is not always one of them. And so what does it mean to build that in? So that's really exciting work that we are just in the throes of. And I acknowledge Laurel Smith-Dorr, who leads ICER, was a kind of core leader of this project and still remains, and several of the other PIs who aren't in the room, but this is really a large interdisciplinary team that's doing the work on campus to move the campus forward. So that's just one of the kind of concrete steps we're working on. But the building a community of dignity and respect is another. And dignity came up a lot today, right? What does it mean to kind of pursue that goal, and not in a arbitrary way? One of the things I hear a lot in diversity work is, why do you start with dignity, right? Why start with respect? Why don't you start with kind of a celebration of diversity, right? And I always talk to people about the difference between a gold star approach to diversity, right? There's this view that there's these gold star people that we really care about, that are code for who we're referring to when we say diversity. But if you ask any of those gold star people how they're doing, they're not celebrating their experience. They're not saying things are great. They're not saying what I want you to do is celebrate me more. What they're saying is, actually, I'm treated like crap. It's not fair, right? I'm not treated with respect. It's not actually you respect me, as opposed to keep pointing me out as the gold star. And so it's starting from there. As she was saying, what does it mean to create the 100%, right? To say, we all, at our minimum, want to be treated with dignity and respect, period. And if we get to that, then a lot of the people, the women, right, the racial minorities, those who don't share the same class rank that's privileged in a higher educational institution, can say, I belong here too. So thank you for the work you do and the work we're going to partner with on campus.